Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday.
Hey, for this week's Beyond Sunday podcast, you're going to get to hear from Helen Bosch. Helen is a friend who's been a part of Narrate for a couple of years. You'll hear parts of her story in just a moment. She was one of the people that we had the privilege of baptizing this last August, which is also a way of saying starting next week, you'll hear us talk about baptism and whether or not you're considering baptism for August of 2025. And if so, we would love to connect with you and get you connected with some of the gatherings that we'll do and just the conversations. So I'm really excited for you to hear from Helen. I thought the conversation with her was just an absolute gift. Thanks. Ultimately, your story was so awesome and so unique. And
oh, thank you.
I just, how do you even begin to describe, someone comes up to you and goes you got baptized? What happened?
Yeah.
How do you even get in, how do you begin to answer that?
Well, the first thing I would say is that it was kind of a long process. It didn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it started, well, let me just give you a little background. So my mom and dad both had Roman Catholic upbringing.
Okay.
And they both left the church. And they didn't baptize my brother and I. It was something that they left the church. They didn't want to raise us in that way. But
so did they leave the church before you even born? Or
I don't really know.
Okay.
That I don't remember it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
But you weren't infant baptized at the church,
No.
None of that.
No.
Okay.
No. So I'm pretty sure it was before. So my mom's family lives in Argentina, and so we didn't have a lot, to do with them. But my dad's family in Great Falls, they still practice Catholicism, but not my dad. And so I always just kind of felt like an outsider. And so did my brother. I mean, we just weren't in that world. And then when we would be taken to church, it was Catholic church usually. And
Roman Catholic Church.
Right. And Roman Catholic Church. And you had to know what to say, when to stand, when to kneel, when to, And so it's really not conducive to learning about, the religion or why people do or have the faith or anything. You just feel more like you're trying to dance and you don't know the steps.
Yeah, wow.
So you're...
Really
you don't know the songs. You don't know what to say when somebody says something. You don't know what to say back.
Were you ever told why? Did they ever tell you their own reasons for leaving? Or was that kind of all unspoken?
Well, no, it's complicated though. Yeah,
So you were. We don't have to make us aware of them, but you were aware of their complications.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and disapproval too.
That they received.
Disapproval if I were to, kind of you can figure it out and you can go do this, you can go to church if you want to, but kind of this disapproval along with it, this unspoken oh, why would you believe that ridiculous stuff? That kind of there's this unspoken.
So it wasn't really a sincere you get to choose.
No. I mean, yeah, you can choose, but then you're choosing to do something that you can tell displeases your parents. And as a kid, that's hard.
Totally.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
So you don't have that kind of freedom to really explore it. And so, fast forward, I'd attended some churches on and off.
As a kid, as an adult?
As an adult, just once in a while I'd attend church. I attended church because I got married to a Lutheran. And he wasn't really practicing either anymore. He never went to church, but we would go when we would go see his parents or something. And, so I would go. But nothing, it was the same sort of scenario. Anyway, So then I met Dave, my fiance. Fiance. I have to say fiance now. Anyway, and he invited me to narrate because you were doing a series on the mind. Basically, it was the mind, and it was anxiety, and it was about, it was a couple of years ago.
Death by Self-Talk series?
Yeah. And so he invited me to go. He says, "This is really good. I think you'd like it," because I struggle with anxiety. And so I went, and I was like, "Oh, that was really good," And so then I went again, and then I went again, and then I don't know, about a month or two. I don't remember how much time went by, and then I was like, okay, I think I'm done. I think I've got enough, and I'm done.
For any particular reason that you can name?
Yeah, I just felt like, I don't know. I just felt like, oh, no, I don't think I'm a Christian. I'm not going to become a Christian. This doesn't stick. I'm not going to become a believer, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he's like, well, it takes a little longer than that. You got to stick to it and keep learning. And then I took the Alpha class. Oh. So that's what I thought, okay, I got to keep learning. And that's the thing that you have emphasized a lot, is that it's not just you just show up and it happens. You have to learn. You have to, like anything, to understand chemistry. You have to study. You have to understand it by degrees, and have to dig into it and study it and learn it. And so I did the Alpha class, and then I did you held a book club with Mere Christianity, and I did that, and so I started digging in. So I started reading and started exploring, and I read Matthew for Me, or Matthew for Everyone.
Right. Yeah.
And I just started reading more things that are not just, because when I read the Bible, I don't really understand. It's like reading a poem to me. I don't know what it's really saying. And so N.T. Wright was the Matthew for Everyone was really helpful, because it used a lot of analogies and used a lot of explanations about the context, and then I was like, oh, so that was,
wow.
So all of that's happening.
At that point, you're a couple of years?
I would say like a year and a half or so now. So I've been going to narrate. I've been doing this, asking questions.
What did Helen the scientist have to reconcile?
Well, the evidence. Like, this is far-fetched. And you even had said that. It's far-fetched. I mean, this is not something that happens in the natural world. It just, that these things just do not occur. And so, I was struggling to reconcile that with, no, this is what happened because it's the Son of God, not because this can happen to, it happened because he's God.
The resurrection. So you were able to were you able to reach a point where, like, you believe in the resurrection?
No, I didn't. Actually, that didn't happen. So then my mom got cancer, and well, it was 5 months of just pain and suffering and difficulty watching somebody that you love suffer, And that's when every resource that I've ever had, be it my support system through my counselor, my friends, Dave, just all the support systems, my family, everything I had could not be enough to comfort me in that time.
Wow.
Nothing.
For the record, I'm learning all this as we're talking. This is remarkable.
And yeah, it was nothing. And like when I saw you in the park that day that I had nothing in the tank. I was so stressed, so sad, so helpless.
You were on your way to work, right?
I had to go to work, and you're just trying to fake it. Like, you know, when you're in just like so much pain, but there's like, you got to go to work. You got to show up.
Wow.
But yeah, anyway. And you said, "Come, Holy Spirit," and I was comforted. I was like, that's all I gotta say is, "Come, Holy Spirit."
Wow.
Like, it's a simple thing, but to know that there's somebody or some force or some power that's bigger than you that just can, I got this. It'll play out. You're going to be okay. Your mom's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And it was just that, so intellectually exploring all of this, but not feeling much in my heart until I was at the bottom of a pit.
Interesting.
And that was like the only uplifting, you know, thing. I mean, that's all. That there is hope.
Wow.
That there is hope. Not in
It's
the
not like
way
your
that
mom lived.
oh no, she didn't live. There's no hope in the sense of a natural, oh, I hope she gets better. No. That's my only hope was that she would stop suffering, and guess what? That was realized. You know, I believe that she's still with me. I believe that it played out in the way that it played out for reasons that I will never understand, but it's okay. And
so you had like a real Holy Spirit encounter in that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Like a real, like, oh, yeah, I'm not alone. I can't fix this. It is what it is. And, you know, and I'll just try to pray and see, like, how I can show up without having the power to actually do anything. Like, that's not my... And, you know, and I have to keep learning that lesson, too. I mean, it's like, I keep on trying to assert, like, what I think things should be. And then it's like, nope. No. You know, thy will be done.
Yeah, that's the part of the Good Friday liturgy that I feel like I'm going to do a terrible job preaching on this week, just because there's just this one line that I've just been transfixed on for a couple of months. It's in Isaiah, which is one of the Good Friday readings, but it's the third part of a verse, but it just says, "Through him the will of the Lord shall prosper." And I'm like, man, there's not a more important thing in the whole world than that statement right there.
Yeah.
So that, like, your will be done, but
yeah,
so much work.
It's so much work, and we have so much well, I should say I have so much ego that
yeah.
I it is I don't know, it's like we try to have, our life under control, our finances under control, our families, under some sort of like, oh, this is how things should work, and generally speaking, they tend to work until they don't. And sometimes they don't. And a lot of times they don't. And then you have the realization that they work, not because of what we're doing, but because, maybe even more of coincidence that, maybe more like, oh, well, maybe it works because I'm showing up, but also other forces like God and, are also aligning.
Yeah.
And this is an outcome that's occurring. So, we have free will, we have all this, but, what plays out in the end is what plays out.
Sure.
I'm not.
So you're doing all this intellectual work, Alpha and Mere Christianity, and kind of working through some of the more brain-centered, mind-centered stuff. Then you have this very real, like, presence of God experience.
Yes.
And I forget the timeline. So then what led from that to then opting to get baptized? And
Then another class.
oh, what was that?
The baptism class.
Oh, that's right, because you just signed up going, I'll just go. And
Yeah.
okay.
I'm going to explore this. Like, what does it mean to be a Christian? And I think the moment in that class that was like, it's okay to be a Christian and not know everything about Christianity, to not know. I cannot say that I'm an expert in Christianity because I'm a Christian.
Yeah,
and that's, no, you are.
Well, no, expert is such a relative phrase, right? Like, you're
right.
expert compared to who you were 2 years ago. And
right, I know. Yeah. I think what I like about Narrate is that you ask a lot of questions and you give permission to not know the answers. And that's like science, too. Science asks a lot of questions and gives permission to explore them, but not necessarily find out the answer. And once I realized that really they're the same but different. Of course they're different.
Sure.
But really the process is the same, that you ask questions, that you explore that intellectually, because, we have a brain for a reason.
Right, yeah.
We ask questions for a reason. We feel unsettled for reasons when there's a discord between what we see and what, we hear. We're going to be confused. We're going to ask questions. And so in that, I guess I thought, well, there's permission to be a Christian, but not say, hey, I know what this is all about.
So what are the things that you hold on to with confidence, like within that belief space? Because I completely agree with you, like, to embrace the mystery, to receive the permission. Even look at the disciples in the Gospels, right? If we held Peter to the litmus test of modern belief, when does he come into alignment? Like, it would seem after the pages of the Gospels are closed, or at least at the very end. So what for you are the things that you cling to? It sounds like the presence of God is real.
That is real.
Has that persisted for you?
Yeah, it has. I take a great deal of comfort knowing that God is real.
Wow.
Yeah. That is one thing. I'm still trying to figure out, but I think that Jesus is real, and that he, let's see, how do I say this? That he had to have a power greater than just being a man in order to move the world in the way that he did. And so following him and his examples and trying to follow, of course.
Sure, I can appreciate that.
We fall short. But is not going to steer you in the wrong direction in life.
Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. And I think one thing that was a big turnoff to me was that religion can take people to places of racism, to judging others, but I don't think that that's what Christ intended. I don't think that the church and the establishing a religion is what Christ wanted. It became that.
Sure.
But I think what I hold on to is that following Christ is not a religion. That you question things, and that if your church says something like, well, you know, whatever it is, like homosexuality is a sin, an abomination, and all of that. If that's something that, you know, that you believe because your church sort of steers you in that way, or your religion steers you in that way, or that's what, you know, that's what you believe if, you know, then you're just believing. You're not doing Christianity. Christianity is working at understanding how to live your life, following love, compassion, you know, those principles.
Yeah. So it sounds like for you, when you use the word religion negatively, the value there is this kind of, what would be the, like, you're this kind of regurgitated, not personally thought through, not owned, like,
the experience of my childhood, the experience that I've had in many churches where you don't think, that there's a show going on, and you know the steps to the dance, and you know what to say, when to say it, what to do, that's religion to me. That is, you know, you are not necessarily exploring something and trying to understand it, or trying to, you know, learn something. You're
just rote ingesting it is what you're taking issue with, it sounds like. Yeah. Wow.
Rote ingesting it. And like you were saying, you know, there's power in having prayers like the Lord's Prayer, and to saying this. But to understand what you're saying is also, to me, more important than just saying the words.
Yeah, those two have to go together.
They do.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that makes tons of sense.
And for me, that was how I could come to becoming a Christian, to becoming baptized, because at Narrate, in this environment, that was different to what I had experienced. And I'm not saying that I've had every experience, you know, in every church. I haven't. But that was a big turnoff to me.
Yeah, there's such a tension there between orthodoxy and, like, how do we make sure that we're believing these core things that have to be believed to be a Christian, while at the same time leaving room for someone to explore that on a pace and a timing. And for me, that's why, I mean, it's funny to me that you're saying some of this, and like the baptism class was the catechism, right? It was exploring the Apostles' Creed. So
yes.
and that historically has been like, if you can sign off on the Apostles' Creed, you're in. Like,
right.
So this tension between...
Well, the Apostles' Creed is something we explored, though.
Right.
You didn't just go, well, say this.
Right. Yeah.
Recite this, and then you're in.
I rode by a car yesterday at the end of my ride, and I could see from afar the guy had the Coexist bumper sticker. So then I was curious, and as I got closer, he had this one that said, "Science doesn't care what it is that you believe." And I just, was like, man, I would love to have a conversation because, first of all, I would love to know your definition, like this man's definition of science, right? Because I'm like, no, science believes stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just to me, it speaks to, it sounds like part of your experience of just this very unfortunate false dichotomy between science and belief.
Right.
When in fact, those things overlap all the time.
Right. I think they do. I think that, of course, if you do science, you believe that the method that you are using will bring you closer to a truth.
Right.
Not the truth.
Right, and it still can't be proven in some
Can't be
cases.
proven, and it can fall with new evidence.
Right. Yeah, there's just something about some people are calling it scientism, which and not to be confused with Tom Cruise, but it would seem this modern reticence to admit that anything in one's worldview is based upon faith, which is so... I mean, marriage is based upon faith, right?
Oh, yeah.
So many things are just based upon... the fact that there's just faith is everywhere. And anyway, it wasn't like an anger response I had for that person. It was just this sad response to your point of, and I think if you had some relationships with people who challenged you on this a little bit, there's a danger to that. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing.
No, you're not. You're on point because I was like that. I saw things as a dichotomy, incompatible with each other, until I learned more about the process. Because when you learn the process of being a Christian, because it's a state of being. It's
not static, is what you mean.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not the Christian I am today is going to be the Christian I am in 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully. Right? Yeah.
Right.
Or either way, for better or for worse, that'll hold true.
Right. You need to do the work. You need, like anything.
Yeah.
You have to explore and understand it. You can't just sit there and go, well, check the box.
Yeah.
Got dipped in the lake.
Right. Yeah. But your statement reminds me so much of that Willard thing that we've talked about. I've quoted often of that grace is opposed to earning but not to effort. That
exactly.
And how does the other one? His other one of God will do the work, but He won't do it for you.
Right, you won't.
It's which is awesome that you've.
Well, like you were saying, you have to cross the river. You have to cross the river. Here I am.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's right.
But
there's still a lot of exploring, which is who is it that says marriage is a commitment to a lifelong of getting to know the other person? And
right.
There's some old church father guy who speculates that even in eternity we never stop learning about God, which is a crazy thought, but
that is crazy. That's neat though.
And I don't know that it's one of those black and white, you have to believe it or not, but. And neat because Dave has modeled this for you as well. He's a learner.
He's a learner.
That's
awesome.
He
and his family, well, his brother and his nephew and his brother's wife, they read very, very difficult philosophical,
highbrow religious
not religious. I should say.
Just yeah.
The divine conspiracy. I guess that's a very difficult book to understand, and they take maybe one meeting and talk about a paragraph, and the meeting's like an hour and a half long.
Know, yeah.
And he's a learner, and that inspires me.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me go, yep. You're not gonna. It's not like, oh, I learned addition. Yeah, that's easy. No, this is not easy.
Mm-hmm. So, I'd love to hear more, because you're one of the, as we take communion every week, and we know that, like, hey, this is for people who follow Jesus, but at the same time we don't police it.
Right.
But you're someone who, you made this very intentional decision, like, I'm not taking it until after I'm baptized.
That's right.
What is that? Could you speak a little bit to that? Like, why'd you choose that, and then what was that like, and what is it like now when you take communion?
Well, the first time I took communion, that was neat.
Yeah.
So, to me, communion means that we are symbolizing that we are, taking the body, a symbol of the body, symbol of the blood of Christ, that sacrifice that he made for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before I was baptized, I guess I didn't feel like part of the community yet of, I'm going to take this sacrifice that you made for us and take this with this community. So I needed to be part of the community before I felt comfortable doing that. And so I just waited. Because that's a big thing. It's not that you just do that alone.
Right.
Like you said, it's a community thing. So, if I was just to do it alone, maybe that'd be different. But to choose to do this with Narrate was how I saw it. Is that was the choice I was making.
What made that first time powerful? Can you
the first time was powerful. I mean, it was a step.
Yeah.
It was just another step, I guess, that I'm taking towards a life. That's all. It was powerful in that it was not just a little step. It was a big step that I'm joining your community, and we're going to, continue this path together for my life. That it felt like maybe committing to marriage. Yeah. Like, we're going to get to know each other forever. Yeah. I'm taking this communion with this community, and we're going to get to know each other forever.
Love that. Which is why, like, if you go to the cathedral up the hill, the baptismal font is the first thing you walk by. Like, you enter through baptism. So
yeah, and that's a step.
Yeah, I love that.
And then that's another step. And now when I take communion, I feel a part of the community. I feel like this is something we do that shows our commitment to this life of following Christ. And it's good to reaffirm that. It's like, it's good to say I love you to somebody that you love. It's good to reaffirm your commitment, that you're.
Yeah, no, I like
but it doesn't hurt anything.
Man, it's been such a privilege just to watch and see and hear and.
Well, Adam, you changed my life.
Oh well.
And
likewise. It's been a fun friendship, and also so meaningful to. I like the way you capture just how much work it's been.
It has been. Yeah. No, that's the thing that has been surprising to me, is that, you don't just become a Christian. In my mind. Maybe it's easier if you were brought up in the church.
Sure.
And you just are a Christian because you are.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have a religious conversion to Christianity, or possibly to anything, you're going to work at that.
Yeah. Well, I think that what the advantage of your story is, like, nominalism isn't an option because you've never been a nominal Christian.
No.
So, and that's not a judgment thing, but just I do think that's an advantage that first generation Christians, and I'm not a first generation Christian, but there's aspects of my story that are unique to me. That I think that's one of the advantages is you've an advantage that even my boys don't have, of like this assumed reality in their life is a different thing. And I have many friends who are second and third generation. It's a different challenge. Versus for you, what I hear you talking about is just like, I was either going to be one or I was not. It wasn't important to you that you played out any kind of charade or acted out any kind of religion.
No, I'm not going to act out anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's
you have
a
to,
big deal.
like, if you're going to become a Christian, I think that's an authentic, huge move in your spiritual life, and you decide to have a spiritual life.
Yeah.
And that's a new thing. That's a new journey.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it sounds like so much of that, just your own healthy differentiation in yourself involved, like, this is who I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, this is who I'm going to be.
Wow.
And it's challenging sometimes because I'm not that. Sometimes I'm like, oof, I could have done that better.
Totally. But isn't that why, I think that's the gift of the Bible, though. You read these stories who, they have their statues, they're these kind of emblazoned, like the heroes of the faith, but then you go read the story and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I think to me that's part of the gift of, like, one of my challenges is, like, go find the ideal parents in the Bible.
Right.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, I couldn't, like, go follow these guys' as example as parents over the long term. Like, and I think that's part of the honesty of the Bible. Like, this is hard.
Yeah.
And it's through grace.
It is through grace. And we have to give ourselves grace too.
Yeah.
You know? And that's been another positive thing that I didn't really realize would come out of becoming a Christian is that I've allowed a lot of people grace, but I haven't forgiven myself for some of the things that I do. I don't give myself enough grace. But this has allowed me to see myself as also deserving grace.
Wow.
Also, not carrying the shame, that the guilt, the things, the things that you carry, because you're going to mess up in life. You will hurt someone. You will, you will. But I don't think I had an outlet, really, for that. Like, hey, you can give yourself grace because God gave you grace. You're okay.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.